remember that they're changing my voice. I have a lot of evidence in regards to the hate crimes that have been taking place, including the one in Berkeley with the so-called anti-Semitic flyers. Now, first of all, I have to give you some background into this to help you understand, so you know it's not just some crazy theory, that it's backed by peer-reviewed research and 23 witnesses on record, among many, many other things. I'm somebody with a college degree and with a top martial arts challenge that has proven that I'm smarter than everyone else. You'll see what I mean. Keep in mind, I'm fumed and poisoned daily by hate groups who are working in concert with the government, by CIA groups, what have you. So there's various political groups that are best described as hate groups and terrorist organizations that are affiliated with the governing class, with both political parties, what have you. The situation on the planet is hopeless, and a lot of it has to do with breeding. Right? These people have been doing eugenics. For those of you who don't know what that is, look it up, EUGENICS. They've been sabotaging various racial groups and insisting on, breeding with breeding with the most attractive females. So they have been coercing females, and they have been kind of seducing them and, offering them things and corporations, and they've really destroyed the human genome to the point of no return. And for those of you who need evidence of that, look at porn. Why do so many females turn to porn? Well, it's a calculated process that involves countless organized criminal groups. And the CIA and the mafia historically were very involved. Look at Lucky Luciano, right, with all the prostitutes he used to have. I mean, there's a long story as to why this is happening. I'm going to try to keep this brief here. I'm going to do this in several parts because we have a lot of information to go over here. And I'm going to try to condense it, and I'm going to try to keep these videos short here. So the main people doing it are best described as sort of Freemasonic-like people. They're like Freemasons, right? They have some kind of suit on, LGBT theme, some kind of sissy apron, sort of outfit, what have you. And they're not men, obviously. They're nowhere near men. I'm sure you've put that together a long time ago. And the reason why people have been acting very strange recently it has to do with, technology, and it's more than just social media. It has to do with a lot of things. But in order to understand what's going on, you have to understand why it's happening, right? Who has the means, motive, and ability, and why is this happening? Well, it's happening because they're in Greek societies. In Greek societies, right, Greek mythology, Greek frats, Freemasons, corporate groups, like the whole country is themed in a sort of neo-Greco-Roman way. They were groups that were responding to Egyptian mythology, really more specifically Egyptian supremacy, right? They were kind of very primitive people, and Egypt had a flourishing civilization, right? If you go back to 2,500, really 2,300, we'll say, BC in Egypt, here you have these pyramids in Egypt and this flourishing situation. And in Greece, it was very primitive, very basic. You just had these crazy Dionysus cults running around. I've looked into it quite a bit. Many people obviously agree there's no other way to look at it. And so they were jealous of these African martial artists who had laid down the foundation of the civilization. Even after all the lies from the propaganda departments, science departments are just CIA propaganda departments. Look at how Trump interacts with the colleges and how this is highly political. Okay, both liberals and conservatives, or Democrats and Republicans, highly influence the science departments, and it's like that in all the developed nations. So they just lie for petty racial reasons. Okay, so to make a long story short, when it comes to the African genome, Nigerians are the bell that rings the loudest, right? I can describe it different ways. I'm going to describe it this way. It might not be the most diplomatic, but it'll help you understand. So no offense to anybody. Okay, if the most serious Nigerian, okay, took on the most serious Somalian, okay, now keep in mind that I'm not one race. I could beat any race, so I'm going to use someone else's example. I could beat either one of them in no time flat. Okay, the most serious Nigerian would just grab the Somalian by the neck and would just stab him in the stomach with a spear and just drop him. That's that. So everyone in Africa knows this. They know that Nigerians are the toughest race of any race on the planet. Okay, and of Nigerians, the smartest and the most martial art-like are certain Igbos. And as a result, You have a lot of jealous people. When the white man started lying about everything, he didn't miss that for a moment. Hitler, the English, right? Francis Galton coined the term eugenics. The Jews, when they're arguing that they're chosen, the gays with all their weird Aleister Crowley cults, they didn't miss that for a moment. And there's lots of these people. It's not just a few people, it's millions and millions of these people. There's 24 million millionaires and billionaires here in America alone, and almost all of them are people who are best described as cult people. A lot of them are sort of middle class, happen to own a house. Other than them will say, well, a lot of them are cult people too. It's hard to say what percent of the whole is cult, but we certainly know a lot of them are cult people for many reasons. Okay? So they're responding to this. Now, what does this have to do with the anti-Semitic things? I mean, a lot of you are smart enough to figure that out real fast, right? So the anti-Semitic flyers in Berkeley have to do with pretending that the Jews are under siege because the governing class are white, Jew, and LGBT. And one of the main groups of Jews is Ashkenazi Jews from Germany. Okay, and there's a bunch of English people who, it's kind of like Charles and Harry and James Bond, quote unquote. These sorts of people, right? Some of them are Jewish-ish, but not all of them. So it's best described as a white, Jewish, and LGBT sort of massive propaganda event. Okay, for the governing class. Now, this isn't the first time we saw it with Hitler. We saw it with the Native American genocide, where they called them angry, red in the third word, savages, because they're racist. But it's more specific when it comes to me specifically, because I'm the top martial artist, my father's a brain surgeon, what have you. Okay, they're very mediocre compared to me, and they are extremely jealous. The whole school system, the whole job system's been rigged, for them to cheat people. And if you don't know that, you're dumb. There's a lot of token minorities who kiss up to them, people in the military, police, and their military families, police families, other families, and they work together to try to pretend that the system isn't super rigged. And it is pathetic. So to kind of keep it very simple here, because of my superior mind, body, soul, and spirit, they are targeting me with satanic ritual abuse, right? Satan is a deity of jealousy, of rape by deception, the deceiver, right? Deception, mass murder, what have you. So there's a bunch of sort of mass murdering LGBT cults who dress Freemasonic-ish, who, include people who aren't so gay, because the money and the power in the governing class is with this sort of unholy alliance between white supremacists who are rich, Jewish supremacists who are rich, and LGBT supremacists who are rich. I could show you a long list of, billionaires and 100 millionaires, but you probably get that the first time, right? One glance at America and the wealth distribution, you probably understand that right away. Okay, so what happened here? Okay, well, in East Africa, you have places like, Egypt, Sudan, Somalia, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and they heavily influenced Egypt. They're the ones who founded Egypt, but it was the people there who are the most like Nigerians. Okay, so when, for example, if you were to say, hey, Horus is a god of war and justice and romance and so on and so forth. Well, in Africa and on the planet, who's the bell that rings the loudest when it comes to those things? People of Nigerian descent, right? Igbos. For certain type of evil. After I'm gone, there will be nobody like me anymore. Everyone will just be assimilated, tail tucked, serving the state, what have you. But that's how it was historically. And my top martial arts challenge of 13 years and counting overkill is my point, and countless people have conceded my point. So many people. I'm the top martial artist. It's written in stone in the heavens, what have you. Okay. So that's that. I think that's a lot of information for part one here. In the next part, we're going to talk about Greek culture a little more, how Greek mythology is a response to African mythology and the Greeks trading with the Egyptians and what that means. Talk about the 23 witnesses. We're going to talk about boarding school and the connections to Freemasons a bit more. We're going to talk about the attacks on Christians in Israel and how that connects to this. Okay, we're going to talk about the attacks on the journalists, the rapes, and so on and so forth, and how they're trying to argue that that's not taking place. We're going to talk about how they specifically cited that they're interrupting videos as people try to speak on these things, and how they're interrupting my videos and changing the sound quality. And I've gone through, so many mics. I've gone through like over a dozen microphones and phones in the last maybe 6 years alone. Okay, because they're using technology to interfere.